Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible... The whole Bible is an incredible... I joke very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ball game. Where the Spirit of the Lord, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And here there is Liberty College, but Liberty University. But it is so true. You know, when you think, and that's really, is that the one? Is that the one you like? I think that's the one you like because I loved it. And it's so representative of what's taken place. But we are going to protect Christianity. And if you look what's going on throughout the world, you look at Syria, where if you're Christian, they're chopping off heads. You look at the different places, and Christianity, it's under siege. I'm a Protestant. I'm very proud of it. Presbyterian, to be exact. But I'm very proud of it, very, very proud of it. And we've got to protect because bad things are happening. Very bad things are happening. And I don't know what it is. We don't band together. Maybe other religions, frankly, they're banding together and they're using it. Here we have, if you look at this country, it's got to be 70%, 75%. Some people say even more. The power we have, somehow we have to unify. We have to band together. We have to do really, in a really large version, what they've done at Liberty, because Liberty University has done that. You've band together. You've created one of the great universities, colleges, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and that's what our country has to do that around Christianity. So get together, folks, and let's do it, because we can do it. You know, you have a socialist who is here, actually, but you have a socialist, and I was going to say you have a socialist, could be worse than that, okay? Could be much worse than that. And you have Hillary, and just, if anybody watched that debate last night, what it means is tremendously high taxes. Things are not going to happen with the military. We need to build our military so big, so strong, so powerful that nobody is going to mess with us. We have to do it. One of the generals just recently, well, what do you think of the ISIS threat? And, oh, they're very tough. Well, can we beat them? Well, it's going to take a long time. I don't want that kind of a general. I want a general where we knock the hell out of them fast.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
They say that America is divided politically, and we kind of agree. There's the dumb, and then there's us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that too harsh for the little snowflakes?
This is Right, Left, and Center. This is Right, Left, and Center. No matter what's going on in today's news, politics, social, environment, culture, we're talking about it unabashedly. Real, raw, direct, and funny. Let's rock. This is Right, Left, and Center. And this is your host, Will Jackson.
Here we go, folks. I hope you got yours, because I got mine. This week, we're going to talk about Trump, gag order, Colorado, we're going to talk about Mike Lee, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know that hoe can't keep her mouth shut. And we also going to dive in a little bit about this Republican Party. Boy, they just will not leave January 6th alone. The Honorable FBI Director Chris Wray, boy, I'm going to tell you what, that's a man of substance. Dealing with Clay Higgins, dumbass. Oh, my Atlanta. We're going to talk about woke again. And we're going to listen to a little bit of Chip Roy. So here's the thing. So all of you evangelical folks out there, excuse me, I started a little early. But all you folks out there who are the Christian nationalists, which I call you racist, who support Trump, and not to mention when you supporting Trump, you're going against the whole Bible, okay? Because here you have an adulteress, you have a liar, you have a man who has hate and promotes violence, which we'll dive into that. And then he's a rapist or a person who forces himself on women, and you guys support him. I have one word: wow. And if you're that dumb, I'll spell it for you. W-O-W in all caps. Wow. How in the hell can you support someone like that? I've actually proved my point in the beginning when you listen to him about the Bible verses and how he tried to, quote a Bible verse when he was speaking at Liberty College, and he got laughed at a little bit. I mean, this is a guy who says he's a Christian, and he's not. This is a guy who says that he is for the people. He is not. And to put it blank, he is a racist, and he is for white people only. That's it. That's fact. There is no way around it. None whatsoever. But before we really get into this fuckface, I'm gonna play a little bit of Chip Roy, because I'm gonna rip the Republican mega right down to his underwear. I mean, this he speaks now. He's a Republican, far right, but he's wise to the point where it's incumbent to bring this to light. Here's Chip Roy.
Thank the Speaker. Thank my friend from Wisconsin for making those really important points. I think the commentary by one of the Republican candidates for president, former governor of South Carolina, I think it was a mistake. As another candidate, the governor of Florida, pointed out, anonymous individuals were key to the founding of the United States. The authors of the Federalist Papers, many of our key founding members, wrote anonymously to put out ideas into the public domain and have the government think that they should step in and to censor free speech because they think it might be something that is expedient to achieve other aims which I share, about trying to ensure that we don't have vitriol being shared in the domain and social media, and making sure that we do not pollute the minds of our young. We can achieve focusing on protecting our young and protecting the world against the scourge of these electronic devices and social media without trampling the very free speech that helped found this country. It's a mistake to do that. It's a mistake to empower government over the minds of man, as founder Thomas Jefferson pointed out in saying that he would swear eternal hostility over the mind of men. The fact of the matter is, the republic is in trouble. This country is in trouble, and the time for excuses is over. No more excuses. No more excuses from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, but most importantly of all, no more excuses from my colleagues on this side of the aisle. We have had a tumultuous year of sorts, but in the eyes of the American people, they've been watching from afar, wondering when this body, the People's House, will stand up in defense of the people who send us here. When are we going to do what we said we would do? When are we going to stand athwart and stop the reckless spending that is bankrupting a country that can no longer issue debt without having Moody's downgrade our rating, without having a treasury auction that is a borderline failure just last week because the people around the world no longer believe in American debt? Because we are now spending so much money and we have so much debt. We have more debt than we've ever had in the history of mankind. We have more debt than we had at the end of World War II after we exercised wars in 2 theaters to free this world of tyranny. And if we have to exercise our defense against foreign enemies today, and we have to ratchet up more spending to defend not just our country, but to defend the very freedoms under which we operate, we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have the supply chains to do it, because we're sitting around here twiddling, talking about setting up offices of equity. That's what we're doing. And my colleagues on this side of the aisle utterly refuse to actually do what they say they do when they're going to go campaign against critical race theory and diversity, equity, inclusion, and campaign against Mayorkas, and campaign against open borders. And what do? They come into this chamber and they vote down amendment after amendment after amendment to cut spending and to stop funding the very bureaucrats that are undermining the freedom of this country. We have an administration that is at war with the people of the United States, nothing less. The current administration is undermining the prosperity of the American people, and they're doing it on a daily basis. The current administration, the Biden administration, is undermining our ability to defend ourselves under the Second Amendment, undermining our ability to carry out our free speech rights and our First Amendment rights, undermining our ability to live free from crime and free from the danger of dangerous cartels and dangerous gangs flooding across the southern border of the United States. Every single day, another Texan dies from fentanyl poisoning. Every single day, another Texan dies, like last week, 2 Texans, 2 Hispanic Texans who died tragically in a car accident when you had an illegal immigrant moving people across our border into Texas. And you had somebody who was human smuggling, who was speeding and killed these 2 American citizens. When is this going to stop? When are my Republican colleagues going to put up or shut up? We have bills voting down impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas. They go down. We have bills trying to cut spending, and we have games being played by appropriators right here. Sitting in the Rules Committee night before last, I had appropriators looking at me and talking about the side deals that were cut to keep spending money, to set up funds in slush funds. That's the way this town operates. Slush funds, backroom deals, continuing to spend money we don't have. I am sick and tired of it. I didn't come here for second place. I didn't come here for more excuses. I didn't come here to have the Speaker of the House assume the position and in 17 days pass a continuing resolution off the floor of this House through suspension of the rules. $400 billion, including an extension of the Farm Bill that doesn't do anything about the Chinese Communist Party ownership of our lands. Doesn't do anything to protect small ag and to protect small ranchers from big ag and all of the big corporate adventures getting rich based on the policies from this body. When is it going to be enough? Is $34 trillion of debt not enough? $2 trillion deficits, not enough. Another American dying from fentanyl or from cartels. Terrorists coming across our southern border, not enough. Our babies being put in ovens in Israel, not enough. We have the Senate yesterday who chose expansion of the Internal Revenue Service over standing with Israel. And what are my Republican colleagues doing? They are all too happy to have this vote go down today and get on their airplanes and go home for turkey at Thanksgiving. Why aren't we putting another bill on the floor of the House right now and sending it over to the Senate to shove it down their throats, to say that we, Republicans, stand for cutting spending. We, Republicans, stand for standing with Israel. We, Republicans, stand for securing the border of the United States. No, let's just go back and go raise some money so we can do more fundraisers, so we can then try to get elected, so we can come back here and offer more excuses for why we don't get the job done. You know what the excuse will be next year? Oh, well, we won the House and we won the Senate, if we could even do that, but we don't have 60 in the Senate, Chip. We can't do what you want to do because we don't have 60 votes in the Senate. I've heard nothing but excuses for the 20 years that I've either been a staffer in this town, back in Texas watching it closely, or now back as a member. Nothing but excuses. Nothing but empty promises. And the time for those excuses is over. Today we took down a rule. Yes, because it was a closed rule. We had a closed rule, which means you can't amend it. The Rules Committee put forward a bill for Iran to go, quote, freeze the $6 billion sitting in Qatar through a closed rule. We were not allowed to amend it. Such is the way things operate in the people's house if we don't police it every single day. We changed things in January. We've been opening the place up, but that was a reversion right back to the mean. You can't amend it, little boy. You're just a backbencher. You know what? Yes, we will. We will force amendments because we had a better approach than a simple freezing of the $6 billion. You know what we wanted to do? We wanted to tell Iran no more. We're going to force the administration to stop issuing waivers to sanctions against Iran so we can stop the enrichment of Iran at the expense of Israel and at the expense of our own national security. Just yesterday, another $10 billion of waivers. $10 billion of waivers for Iran to sell electricity to Iraq. We are enriching Iran to be at war with us. We are enriching Iran to fund the killing of Jews in Israel. And yet Republicans just whistle by. Just say, oh, let's just issue a little bill. Let's just do $6 billion of freezing these assets in Qatar. Why don't you stop the actual blood money? Why don't you actually stand up and stop Iran from making billions of dollars giving oil to China? We talk a big game about Ukraine. We wear our little blue and yellow pins. Look at us. Look how compassionate we are to help people. But what the hell are we actually doing? Blank checks to Ukraine to go into the pockets of oligarchs, massive corruption, all getting documented by the day. We sent a bill over to the Senate. Democrats kill it because they'd rather side with the IRS than Israel. And we can't even move a bill to hip check the Iranians who want to kill us and exterminate the Jews in Israel. They don't hide behind it. They don't shy away from it. They openly say it. And here we are, and I'm in an empty chamber because everybody wants to go home and have their turkey, and we haven't done anything. Literally, the House Republican majority, what we've accomplished this year is the following. We have increased the debt of the United States $4 to $6 trillion. We don't actually know the amount because we set a date to January of 2025 with skyrocketing interest rates. So it's going to be a $4 to $6 trillion increase in your debt. Check. What else have we done? Well, we've passed 2 continuing resolutions of the Nancy Pelosi spending bills and priorities. Something to the tune of probably about $600 or $700 billion worth of spending when you add the Farm Bill into it. That's what we've done. That's what the Republican majority has done. When are we going to act like a Republican majority and start fighting? When are we going to do anything to truly cut spending instead of playing games? Yes, we've passed 7 appropriations bills. Yes, we've adopted some cuts, and I'm proud of those cuts. Yes, we've adopted some strong policies in the NDAA and passing H.R. 2, the border security bill. But all of that is a tree falling in the forest if we are unwilling to lock arms and fight. It does you no good to get all your ammunition ready and get all prettied up and get in the boats, and when you get to the beaches in Normandy, say, sorry, I don't think we can climb the cliffs because now's not the right time. When is the right time? Because nobody's going to just stand up one day and say, guess what, boys, it's June 6th. It's time to get up and fight. Because right now, all I'm hearing is excuses. All I'm hearing are reasons why we can't do what we campaign on doing. We can't have a shutdown. Okay, well then why don't you just take your voting card, walk over to the other side of the aisle and say, thank you, sir, may I have another? Because that's what we're doing. If we don't stand up and say, there's going to be a moment where we're going to say, we're sorry, you don't get to use taxpayer dollars and, more importantly, borrowed money to continue to stick it to the American people every day with open borders, dangerous communities, skyrocketing interest rates, skyrocketing inflation, an inability to educate your children without them being indoctrinated, an inability to have a job without being told you got to get a vaccine, an inability to have your business open during a pandemic because a bunch of tyrants shut your livelihood down, and now we do nothing about it, an inability to have a national defense that isn't woke and focused on, diversity, equity, inclusion, and transgender surgeries and abortion tourism, rather than actually killing people and blowing things up, which is what the military is supposed to be trained to do. What in the hell are we doing in this chamber? We talk about these leaders of the law that are put up on the walls around the chamber, including Moses. And we're walking away from Moses and the people of Israel by not standing up and defending Israel, by ensuring that we force the Senate to do their job. I would have shoved down the throats of the United States Senate a funding bill that included Israel and dared Chuck Schumer to shut the government down and go home and eat turkey. But instead, we walk away. Continuing resolution, ladies and gentlemen, we'll fight in January. Enough of continuing to do the same old, which is all we're doing. We give tours over to Arlington National Cemetery. When you fly into Washington, D.C., as one of my friends, the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis, likes to point out, as a man who wore the uniform, as a man who served his country, when he flies into Washington Reagan, DCA, and you fly along the Potomac and you look to your left, he says in stories, you see the monuments. You see the Washington Monument. You see the Lincoln Memorial. You see the Jefferson Memorial. You see this Capitol building sitting up on the hill as a symbol for freedom and what a republic looks like for the world to understand and see. But on your right, when you're flying down that river, you see a whole bunch of other monuments, but they're a lot smaller. They're little stones of marble that are cut out to represent all of those who died so that we could be here, who died so that we could live free, who died so that we could stand under that flag. And we're pissing it away. We're giving it away. All that they fought for, all of those freedoms, we are giving it away. Why? Because we're too cowardly to stand up and do our job. Oh no, a shutdown. Are you freaking kidding me? Oh, we can't have a shutdown heading into Thanksgiving. What will they say or do? How about we stand up and fight and go to the American people and tell them that we believe we should be doing what they sent us here to do? Limiting spending, securing the border of the United States, standing with Israel, but paying for this stuff as we go so our kids and our grandkids don't inherit a bankrupted country and they don't have to wonder what freedom used to look like while they're speaking Mandarin. But that's what we're going to get. We went through an entire month of drama about a speaker, and we just did the same damn thing we've been doing. The people I represent are sick and tired of it. People say, well, Chip, why do you get so animated on the floor? Because somebody has to stand up for the people whose voices want to be heard in this town. If I see another bill, another measure, another amendment, another office focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, focused on all of these nonsensical programs that we can't even afford, much less if they're good for the United States of America, rather than figuring out how to have bullets and planes and boats to stand up and defend this country and defend freedom, rather than standing up and securing our border and giving the Border Patrol what they need, rather than making them show up to the border every day, outmanned, outgunned, and with a mission to usher people into the United States falsely under the name of compassion, using false interpretations of the law, expansive uses of asylum and parole, to allow terrorists and criminals to come into the United States and endanger the American people. The police officer in Austin, Texas, that I went to the vigil for on Sunday night, he was killed by somebody on the terrorist watch list. What in the hell is wrong with this country?
Well, I'll tell you what the hell is wrong with this country, Mr. Chip Roy. All right, so let's clear a few things up. And the reason why I said Chip Roy did a wonderful job explaining shit is because he let the cat out of the bag. So the first thing I want to start, first of all, I'm going to work my way backwards because, see, it's the Republican Party, the far-right mega group who is trying to defund the police. So let's clear that up. And as a father of a police officer, I'm totally against that. Okay? So that's one. Now, let me step back to the woke thing here. So let me play this for you. So if anybody is around Chip Roy, any far-right Republican like Trump or DeSantis, people in Florida who support DeSantis and Trump don't understand woke. This is the true meaning of woke for the millionth time.
The word woke, when used as a political term, refers to a perceived awareness of issues concerning social justice and racial equality, according to Wikipedia's entry on the subject. The article further reports that this use originated in the United States and derives from the African American vernacular English expression "stay woke," the form of which conveys a continuing awareness of these issues. The Oxford English Dictionary defines woke as alert to injustice in society, especially racism. The Cambridge English Dictionary defines woke as aware, especially of social problems such as racism and inequality. Over time, however, the meaning of woke has shifted so that the word has come to suggest a sarcastic version of what it originally meant. Indeed, according to the Urban Dictionary, woke means the state of being pretentious about how much you care about a social issue. Those who would broadly consider themselves woke have been criticized for their sending of occasional Twitter tweets calling for social and racial justice, but never making concrete efforts toward effecting lasting change. To summarize, some people say that being woke indicates awareness of social issues, while others deploy the term as an insult.
And there you have it. So I decided to do the voiceover of woke so that way you didn't hear from my voice. For all you white Republicans that is far right that keep using the word woke, it is a black vernacular. Okay? Which means that it was not developed for your meaning. Okay? It was not. So stop that shit. Now, as far as, funding the military, etc., that's all Republicans. Okay? That's all Republicans. The number one Republican who is holding up shit is Tommy Tuberville. And if you don't believe me, I'll play this again for you. Lindsey Graham.
You've just denied this lady a promotion. You did that. all of us are ready to promote her because she deserves to be promoted. She had nothing to do with this policy. Let me say it again. Everybody in this body could find an issue with any administration they don't agree with. And what we're going to do is open up Pandora's box. Today is abortion policy. If we take back the White House, we'll go back to the Mexico City policy, limiting dollars to be given to overseas entities that are engaged in the abortion business. Some pro-choice people don't like that. What would happen if they put a hold on all the officers because they don't agree with the Republican administration? There's a reason this has not been done this way for a couple hundred years. No matter where you believe it or not, Senator Tuberville, this is doing great damage to our military. I don't say that lightly. I've been trying to work with you for 9 months. Folks, if this keeps going, people are going to leave. Let me tell you how the system works. You have 18 months, I think, from the time you're promoted to pin on. And if you don't make that gate, your time and grade up or out rule kicks in. There's some people that are waiting to be promoted that if they don't get promoted soon, they're going to be out of the military. Now, how does that help anybody if they're qualified? There's not one senator in here that could not find a reason to object to an administration policy in the military. None of us. We could all find something. I just hope we don't do this routinely. Because if this is the norm, who the hell wants to serve in the military when your promotion can be canned based on something you had nothing to do with? She had nothing to do with this. If you think it's illegal, go to court. We have courts in this country.
And that is fact. So here we have it once again. This is the voices of the Republican Senate, a voice of the Republican House. And I'm going to tell you something. It just gets better. It gets better. When we come back, I got some more bullshiggity for you. More after this.
Have you been looking for a podcast that takes you beyond the headlines? A show that challenges you. A show that's real, raw, and unapologetic. Then you've found your new home. Right, left, and center.
Right, left, and center.
News, the environment, immigration, politics, the criminal justice system, and everything in between. Join Will Jackson every week, your personal guide to understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Listen everywhere podcasts are available. You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
Boom, boom, boom. I hope you got yours, because I got mine. So, let's dive back into this. So, there's a premise here. There's something I'm trying to lay out here. And that's a foundation, because in my final words, you'll find my foundation. And you then can build on this. Because at the end of the day, when you look at this, the Republican far-right mega group, or whatever you want to call them, are so fucked up that they don't even... I actually have to ask myself, do they listen to themselves? Maybe they should fucking record themselves and listen to themselves before they open their nut rest. That's my question. Maybe they should. Because you already know how I feel about Jim Jordan, who's a dick of Ohio. And speaking of Ohio, so all Ohioans, all of us voted to legalize marijuana, for recreational use. And we also voted to allow abortions in the state of Ohio. Well, here's a key thing. This is a Republican state. Overwhelmingly, Republicans and Democrats in the state of Ohio voted to allow abortions to take place, to legalize abortions in our Constitution. Well, the state House and the state Senate is trying to backdoor our vote. And if you don't believe me, call your local state representative, your state senator, and ask them what the hell is going on. And if you don't get an answer from your Republican representative, call a Democratic state House representative or a state House senator, and they'll explain to you exactly what the fuck the Republican Party in the state of Ohio is trying to do in regards to our vote. Because they lost for the second time in the year, and now they're trying to circumvent the situation. So my advice for all Republicans and Democrats in the state of Ohio who voted for legalizing a woman's right to take care of her own body, not allowing any man to tell her what to do with her body. And by the way, I can tell you now on my block, and I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, on my block, everybody voted to allow women to exercise that right to take care of their body, and that the government and the state government, the federal government should not be involved. Now, speaking of abortions, this chick should have been aborted. I'm sorry, she should have. And that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Listen to this chick when talking to Mayorkas in one of the Senate hearings along with the Honorable Christopher Wray.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Green, for 5 minutes of questioning.
Secretary Mayorkas, I want you to look at these innocent Americans. Do you see them?
I do, Congresswoman.
They are dead. They're from Dalton, Georgia, in my district. They're dead because a 17-year-old, likely affiliated with the cartels, was smuggling illegal aliens into our country in Texas, breaking our laws, and this happens every single day in our country. Earlier this week, 8 Republicans joined the Democrats and protected your job. But I want you to know, you have a short time coming. You can honorably resign, or we are going to impeach you, and it's happening very, very soon. Mr. Wray, do you remember on October 18th when the Capitol...
I'm going to stop that because first of all, that bitch talk a tough game. She's all about mouth. She's not done anything in the House of Representatives that was meaningful since she's been in the House. Nothing whatsoever. And for those constituents who have voted for her, you'll be a sad person in America if you vote for her again. You need to wake up and stop this chick from continuing her antics, from doing shit. I mean, she's doing more sidebar shits and personal videos and attacks rather than focusing on the House business. She has not done anything regarding the House business. Hell, she wanted to punch out Lauren Boebert, and that was supposed to be her girl. I mean, this is the type of shit you can't make up. And then you got Clay Higgins. This guy. Oh my Lanta. Listen to this cat.
Director Wray.
Last year, you might recall, sir, our exchange regarding the FBI's involvement on January 6th and prior. I'm happy to jog your memory to quote, according to the record, I asked you, did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol on January 6th prior to the doors being opened? You responded, I quote, again, I have to be very careful of what I say. To which I said, it should be a no. Can you not tell the American people no? We did not have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol on January 6th. A year has passed. We sit here again a year later, we the people still do not have a definitive answer from you or anyone else in the Biden administration regarding the FBI presence and participation in the months leading up to the November election and in the weeks and days prior to January 6th and on January 6th here in D.C. We can't get a straight answer, although we have a tremendous amount of evidence harvested and reviewed over the course of the last year, which you will see. In September, Stephen D'Artano, formerly in charge of the FBI's field office in Washington, D.C., testified to the House Judiciary Committee that he was aware the FBI informants would attend the Stop the Steal rally thrown on January 6th. You confirmed that the FBI had confidential human sources at the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th here in D.C., sir?
Congressman, as we've discussed before, I'm not going to get into where we have or have not used confidential human sources. But what I can tell you, on. You asked for a definitive
We'll move
answer.
on. It's my time. You said no, you're not going to answer. That's cool. We're watching.
Mr. Chairman, may I answer the question?
Your moment will come. This is my time. Earlier this year, an FBI informant who is reported to have, quote, his quote, under oath, marched to the U.S. Capitol with fellow Proud Boys members on January 6th, close quote. He said he was communicating with his FBI handler while people were entering the U.S. Capitol. Can you confirm that the FBI had that sort of engagement with your own agents embedded into the crowd on January 6th?
If you are asking whether the violence at the Capitol on January 6th was part of some operation orchestrated by FBI sources and or agents, the answer is emphatically
You're saying
not.
no?
No.
You're saying no?
Not
okay.
Violence orchestrated by FBI sources or agents.
No. No means no. You redneck. What in the hell's going on in Louisiana? You got Tommy Tupperville, and then you got this dumb fuck who sound like and also look like he can't read or wrote. Now, my question is for you folks in the 3rd District in Louisiana, what are you thinking? Having a excuse me, I almost used a bad word. Having a goofy fuck like him representing you. This is another Republican, far right, who doesn't seem to have his ducks in order. And then you have, I forget his name. I don't even know what district he's Mike Lee. I don't know what district he is from, but I did make a note. He's a constitutional lawyer. And if I do remember, I did see a tweet from Liz Cheney. Everybody know I love me some Liz Cheney. I follow her on X. But she did put out a tweet on X, calling him out about January 6th. See, they want to bring back this January 6th deal. They want the Republican Party, the far-right Republican Party, are embarrassed because they've been shut down by Liz Cheney and the rest of the January 6th investigators and committee. They want a way out. They want to be able to continue to campaign on this bullshit that they continue to talk about. January 6th. Let it go. Your president has been indicted. Your president has 91 counts. Your president is facing all kinds of legal action. And 3 of his cronies have already pleaded guilty in the Fulton County. And one of them bitches sat there and cried in court, apologizing. And then you got Mr. Giuliani, who's sitting there just trying to figure things out. There's nothing to figure out because, first of all, Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Shay Moss, is going to bankrupt his ass. Not to mention the legal fees are going to bankrupt his ass. So for a person who was in front of the camera all the damn time, seems to be pretty damn quiet. You guys see where I'm going with this? See, January 6th was no tour event. Especially when you had on television all the major news networks, including Fox, showing that people are kicking in windows, kicking in doors. Police officers lost their lives. Who cares about if there was an FBI agent embedded in the rioters? Who cares? Law enforcement officers lost their lives. They're hinging on a guy sitting there holding a vape pen. A vape pen is totally different than actually having a FBI badge. And oh, by the way, if someone was embedded in that group, I guarantee you they wouldn't be showing their FBI badges, and especially when they're killing and beating Capitol police officers. Figure that one out. I mean, this is the far-right Republican Party as it is, as it stands today. Delusional, race. I'm not going to say all Republicans. Let me back that up. Far-right Republicans. They're racist. They don't have a clue. They want everything to fit in their puzzle. Meaning that these motherfuckers will take a triangle and put it in a square peg. Try to put it in the square peg. And if you leave these fuckers in the corner long enough, they'll sit there with a hammer to try to make it fit. And then when they do get it in there, they'll say, see, that fits. And that's what they want America to believe. That is not the case. I mean, this is a special, you know what? This is a special episode because, see, I'm not done yet. So strap on your seatbelt because this ride is only going to get faster. More after this.
Have you been looking for a podcast that takes you beyond the headlines? A show that challenges you. A show that's real, raw, and unapologetic. Then you've found your new home. Right, left, and center.
Right, left, and center.
News, the environment, immigration, politics, the criminal justice system, and everything in between. Join Will Jackson every week, your personal guide to understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Listen everywhere podcasts are available. You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host. You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
I'm gonna break this shit up.
Yes, 1, 2. Crazy. Hip hop. New York. Check me out right here, yo. The Green Eye Bandit. Yes, say this cruise. To get disrespected by niggas, I refuse. Everybody frontin', fake thugs, trucking drugs, hardcore killers and rap. All of a sudden, we don't believe you. They be acting. Brad Pitt. I put a gun to your head bigger than Crit. Why not? You think you're taking over the game? Never. Not I ain't having it. You big? Whatever. My nigga on some Denzel shit. Don't end up in the place where you see him get raw shit. Check it out. By now you figure we ain't playing, huh? You talking sense. Yeah, what are you saying? Nigga, my crew's behind me. Death Squad. No question. You're big. My crew's behind me. Brooklyn. No question. Yeah, I'm not holding back on disco round. I'm on a rampage. Ask my homie with me. Slow down.
I'm the best, never stressing. Kill it without a question.
Play your position.
PYP. Ain't nobody going harder, so watch me go farther, y'all.
Play your position.
PYP. What you thought it was a game, ain't a damn thing changed.
Play your position.
You can't stop me, so you gotta watch me do my thing and stay in your place.
You heard of us, Eric Sermon, Frankie Baby. Yep. New York cats, man, we crazy. Niggas screaming Biggie Smalls tried to kill us. It don't stop. It don't stop when you messin' with the realest, nigga. I ain't mad at nothing, but homie, you are. Every time I'm up in the heights, I'm in the new car at the La Marina with 2 Midas, senoritas, chillin'. Dominican, Puerto Rican. The people saying I was over. You thought so. And New York was dead. You thought so. Since 88, I rocked the tri-state. Every year, no fear, knowing the niggas hate. Check it. In my pocket be half of their advances. Getting money with him, I'm taking my chances. New school need to learn though. To respect the game before you turn pro.
I'm the best, never stressing. Kill it without a question.
Play your position.
PYP. Ain't nobody going harder, so watch me go farther, y'all.
Play your position.
PYP. What you thought it was a game, ain't a damn thing changed.
Play your position.
You can't stop me, so you gotta watch me do my thing and stay in your place.
Keep quiet when grown folks are talking. Tell your story walking.
Play your position. PYP.
Yeah, we got that killer over here. You last year, nigga.
Play your position. PYP.
Anyway, homie, your chick chose me. This how it's gonna be.
Play your position. PYP.
You know who killed them, filled them, here the real comes, so homie.
Stay in your place.
Stay in your place. All far right mega Republicans. PYP. Just saying. So let's turn the page on this. So I'm only going to play a little bit of this, but we'll dive into a little bit more of this, of the little bit that I do play. Was that a tongue twister? Yeah, it was. Oh, by the way, I don't own the music, but it fits my thing. And I'll play a little bit more that fits my thing. I got something for the state of Ohio since you passed that marijuana law. In the meantime, let's listen to the U.S. Court of Appeals D.C. Circuit. And for those who didn't get a chance to listen to it, I'm going to tell you something. This 3-judge panel lit into, I mean literally lit into Trump's lawyers. And you know what? We'll talk more on the other side.
Thank you, Your Honor, and may it please the court. John Sauer appearing on behalf of the appellant, President Donald J. Trump. Gag order in this case installs a single federal district judge as a filter for core political speech between a leading presidential candidate and virtually every American voter in the United States at the very height of a presidential campaign. The order is unprecedented, and it sets a terrible precedent for future restrictions on core political speech. The Supreme Court said in Republican Party of Minnesota against White that we have, quote, never allowed the government to prohibit candidates from communicating relevant information to voters, and it's not the role of the government to dictate what topics are appropriate or necessary to discuss in the context of a political campaign. The gag order does both of those things. Cases involving gag orders imposed on criminal defendants who are political candidates, the Brown and Ford decisions, have both given, in the words of Brown, the candidate, quote, absolute freedom, virtually unrestricted ability to comment on both the case in front of him and make public statements that relate to his campaign as it relates to the case. So this is a radical departure from the only cases that have considered this particular form of restriction, a restriction on a criminal defendant who is also campaigning for public office. And it does so in the context of a hotly contested campaign for the highest office in the United States of America. In addition, the gag order, another unprecedented break with jurisprudence, relies completely on an insupportable heckler's veto theory. The gag order does not say, hey, your statements are going to, poison the jury pool by communicating directly with the members of the jury pool. What you have here is a rationale that says this speech, the speech that is targeted by the gag order, might, there's no evidence of this, but it might someday inspire some random third party to engage in some action that might result in harassment or threats to witnesses. This is a quintessential heckler's veto, which the Supreme Court has not traditionally subjected to scrutiny, even very strict scrutiny, but said is just categorically unconstitutional. And the reasons for that, if you look at the heckler's veto cases, in virtually every case, the argument justifying the heckler's veto is we have an absolutely compelling reason to do this, because the speech that we want to suppress is going to inspire rioting, violence, injury, death, whatever it is. And the Supreme Court has said again and again, you cannot do that. All the gag order cases relied on the government do not address this particular heckler's veto kind of rationale for criminalizing speech. And the Supreme Court has held us again and again that is not a permissible rationale to silence anyone. Those cases go back decades, and that government rationale goes back to at least the city of New York in the 1860s.
Would your position be any different if it were a year ago? If the time were just a year ago, so we were much further removed from a political campaign, would your position be the same or different?
Certainly a year ago, we would still be in the midst of a political campaign. I believe President Trump...
When are we not in a political campaign?
Right. I don't mean to fight the hypothetical, but if you're saying that it was made in
a year ago, if it was a year ago,
right. It was
last November,
at a time when he was not a presidential candidate. All the other rationales,
but certainly still engaged in political speech.
Absolutely, core political speech.
So would your position be any different a year ago?
I think the gag order would still be unconstitutional.
Would your position be any different?
I don't see how it would.
Okay, so the fact that we have a campaign going on does not matter. What matters to you is, and this is still political speech, which gets very high protection, no doubt.
I wouldn't put it that way. I think that the fact that the campaign, in other words, we have a whole series of
your position would be no different if it were a year ago.
Our position would be that it's still unconstitutional, but the campaign adds a additional and very powerful reason why it is unconstitutional.
But it's icing on the cake as far as you're concerned. Your position would be exactly the same without a political campaign.
I would say it's the crown jewel of a series of at least 7 fundamental precepts.
You need a crown jewel? I mean, you think the outcome should be exactly the same whether or not there's a political campaign underway?
Yes, I believe there are at least 7 independent First Amendment precepts that are violated by this gag order. Campaign speech is one of them. Heckler's veto is another one. So, for example, a year ago, we would still, if we had the same gag order, we would still be dealing with a categorically invalid Heckler's veto type theory. We would still be dealing with core political speech. Again, we would still be dealing with a situation where we have a restriction on criticism of public figures. That violates the whole public figure doctrine. There'd be a whole series of reasons it would still be unconstitutional. However, one of the most powerful and compelling of those, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Sauer, you point to the fact that your client is in the midst of a campaign, but I trust you agree that a prior restraint is, no matter to whom it would apply, is subject to the highest level of constitutional scrutiny. That's your argument.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, and I also trust that you agree that your client is not above the law that applies to all other Americans.
He's subject to the First Amendment, principally, but yes.
He's subject to the law that applies to everyone. He's not above the law.
We certainly haven't argued that, Your Honor.
Right. And so the district court found that when the defendant has publicly attacked individuals including on matters related to this case, those individuals are consequently threatened and harassed. And we view that factual finding for clear error, right?
No, in a First Amendment case, I believe, as we cited in our standard review section under Houston against Hill, the court should engage in a plenary review of the record under de novo review. That is a mixed question of fact and law.
But for the findings about what happened in the world, we look at that for clear error, and then we look at the First Amendment implications de novo.
Looking at that particular finding, the court would have to look at it in light of the evidence in the record, which shows that that's all based on evidence that's 3 years old and is weighed against the fact that they have no evidence of any threats or harassment that have happened.
LA, land of the stick.
So, y'all niggas know about that purple weed, nigga. Show y'all niggas some shit. It's that sticky, that bug. Indo, hydro. Open up the window. I'm about to blow. That fire. Nigga, what y'all got to roll them up? Backwoods. Garcia Vegas. Straight chocolate Phillies. Top. Straight. Get down with that. Nigga, I was listening to Black and Mild. Y'all niggas don't know nothing about the Corona. Kanye. J.O.B. 1.5. Break it up, chop it up, cut it up, tuck the end, take the fill out, roll it up. Light it, hit it, hold it, pass, pop, blow it up. See, some of y'all niggas be talking about blowing, but can't handle the doja. Getting sleepy and shit, quitting all early. Bitch, you ain't no smoker. Y'all must be used to hitting that dirt, sticks with the brown bugs. Me, I ain't got shit else to do. Nigga, I'm about to get fucked up. 2 cases of green, out the balls burned away. AM to turn to PM, and nighttime to turn back to day. I'm still smoking. Feeling sporty in my hotel, spent the whole day getting loaded. It's nothing but smoke, there's nothing to smoke. It's nothing but sticking, and nothing but dope. Disconnect, smoke detected. Put a wet towel up under the door. Nobody around me, more dope for me. I got the whole tree, leftovers for me. Cool, this bitch off the head. Button up, cause suck 'em up, it's a pet peeve. First, don't put my line in your pocket. Second, don't wet my goddamn weed. That's just 2, before I could get to 3 and 4. 5 and 6, I heard a boom, 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 boom at the door. Evidence all over. I've been doing something serious. Gotta hide this shit, cause I know that's hotel security. I played it off, I said, come back later, I ain't got no clothes. He said, sorry, sir, I don't mean to disturb you, but I smell smoke. Fucker just went to jail for that shit. I ain't going back. I done ate an ounce and I'ma flush the rest, cause I ain't going out like that. Spraying cologne, then cutting on the shower, trying to clear up. Worried like a dog, but I got open the door. Fuck it, here go nothing. The door swung open and some young nigga talking about what's out. He said, I know you got that fire. Say your boy said, ain't that a bitch? Bob, you don't get your bitch ass up out of here. Nigga, I'm thinking you the motherfucking police. I done threw all my motherfucking weed away. Fucking with you old bitch ass nigga. Nigga, get your motherfucking whole ass up out of here, bitch, before I stomp your bitch ass. Fuck. Boy, this nigga done blew my motherfucking high.
You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
Ooh. That's that Mystico. I don't own it, but I played it. I smell smoke. This goes out to the state of Ohio for passing that recreational usage. So let's dive back into this, and then I'll have some final words.
in this particular case, even arguably caused by the speech that's challenged here, when the case has been pending for over 3 months, and the defendant has made public comments about the case almost incessantly.
So the government's position, and this is just for purposes of the question, and I know you don't accept this, but the government's position is that that the district judge is not limited to looking only at the defendant's speech as it relates to this case, but the government identified a dynamic, not just exclusive to this case, whereby when the defendant has publicly attacked individuals, including but not limited to the facts of this case, those people are threatened and harassed. If we were satisfied, and I know you're not satisfied, but if we were satisfied that evidence supported that finding, what more would be needed, in your view? What more would be needed to support the district court's order or an order?
Yeah, I will quote from Landmark Communications and its quotation from Pennekamp against Florida, which is that the standard that has to apply to a gag order applying or even its restriction on speech that relates to criminal proceedings is that the substantive evil that must be addressed must be extremely serious, and the degree of eminence must be extremely high, not remote or even probable, but imminently impending, and all that has to be proven by, quote, solidity of evidence. And when you have a situation, you use the phrase including but not limited to, because the fact that we have here is no evidence at all of threats or harassment in this particular case. All the evidence of threats and harassment go back 3 years ago to a totally different, political dynamic. And this points out another problem with this sort of heckler's veto third-party argument, which is that they can't draw a causal line from any social media post to any threat or harassment when we have wall-to-wall media coverage of this case. Every, talking heads on social media and on cable news and on network news are talking about it all the time. So
now just focus on, and again, I know that you dispute this and you think that the record is inadequate. Were the record indisputably adequate to support the finding of a dynamic that when people are named, and as you point out, this is a defendant who has millions of social media followers. So when people are named on that social media, people are threatened and harassed. And also assume, for purposes of my question, that the threats don't rise to the level of a true threat that would be unprotected by the First Amendment. But we're talking about, in this case, I think we're trying to protect against threats that wouldn't be excluded from First Amendment protection. In that situation, non-public figures who are witnesses, non-public figures who are going to be witnesses, what about the interest of the court in a fair and impartial trial is insufficient to protect those witnesses from that dynamic which results predictably in harassment?
Let me say at least three things in response to that. First of all, a finding of a dynamic strikes me as a way to bake in speculation and hypothetical as a substitute for evidence. So if the district court said, I find a dynamic, I think that would be deeply problematic. It would have to be probed to see what the actual evidence was. Secondly, ask the question of sort of witnesses who are not public figures. There is no evidence of a single post about them in this particular case. So that piles hypothetical and speculation upon speculation. We've cited the Collins decision for saying you can't restrict speech based on secondary effects. That's like tertiary or quaternary effects. I don't have an adjective for how many steps removed it is. And again, that's actually right there on JA 230, right there in the rationale of the district court judge is, well, we don't have any threats or harassment in this case, even though we've had wall-to-wall media coverage of it and wall-to-wall public statements going back for 3 months. But there might someday be threats or harassment to the only public figures that they've identified who are at the highest echelons of government.
I was actually focusing for a reason on non-public figures. Yes. And just to make your position, just to challenge you a little more, the order is intentionally prophylactic. It's intentionally protective against harms that have yet to occur. And in the distinctive context of protecting the integrity of a trial process, that can be a sufficient interest
the standard
for a suppression of speech.
Just prophylactic in the situation where the solidity of the evidence shows an imminently impending danger. We are nowhere near that in this particular case. And as I was saying about non-public figures, there's no evidence of any statement in this case that relates to any non-public figure. So again, you're piling. That would be, and in fact, the district court did that in this case.
Counsel, I think the concern is that it seems at times your position would be that the district court's hands are tied until we actually know there has already been harm to the integrity of the trial. For example, that a witness has been intimidated. And so I think the questions are trying to get at what evidence short of that, you certainly can't be saying that's what we need. What evidence short of that would the district court need before it could step in and enter an order like this?
Solidity of evidence that demonstrated an imminently impending threat. And again, that's Supreme Court case law.
I think we're going back to the legal standard. You mentioned the Fifth Circuit's decision in Brown,
right.
And that court rejected the argument you're making today, which is essentially that the district court has no authority to regulate the speech of a criminal defendant unless it's entirely unprotected by the First Amendment. And what the Fifth Circuit said, drawing on Gentile and even the Landmark Communications case, is that the Supreme Court has drawn a distinction between speech restrictions on those who are participants in the trial and those who are strangers to it. I believe that's essentially a direct quote from Gentile. So what's your best argument that criminal defendants shouldn't be treated as within that category of participants in the trial?
If you look at Justice Rehnquist's opinion in Gentile, it's 12 pages.
Which was not a controlling opinion. The controlling opinion is Justice Rehnquist on the legal standard.
Exactly right. I'm talking about Section 2 of that opinion is the controlling opinion of the court. It goes on for 12 pages about the specific, again and again and again, it's all about the special roles of attorneys. And it says attorneys, officers of the court, attorneys can be subjected to particular restrictions that it directly contrasts with, for example, the rights of ordinary citizens or the common rights.
It also talks about participants. And there are a number of Supreme Court cases that distinguish participants in a criminal trial from those who are outsiders to the criminal trial. Would you at least agree that there is that language in Supreme Court cases?
There is some language, but
there is that language in Supreme Court cases, correct?
Not language that would tie participants to the substantial likelihood of material prejudice standard. We do dispute.
I just want to be a little more precise about this. So the quote from Gentile is there's a distinction between restrictions on the speech of those participating in the litigation and strangers to it. And it goes on to say of Shepard, the sort of canonical case about a trial court's obligations, quote, we expressly contemplated that the speech of those participating before the courts could be limited. You mentioned Landmark. That concerned a sanction on the press. And footnote 9 of that opinion says, if this was limited to those who participated in the proceedings, it might well save the statute. And our job here is to read these Supreme Court cases, and it seems like they're drawing a very clear line of participants and non.
I don't hear anything or see anything in any of that language that says, therefore, you're subject to the substantial likelihood of material prejudice test. And we do dispute that. But even if that test applies, you would have to have much, much more evidence. Keep in mind that, Justice Kennedy's plurality opinion in Gentile emphasizes that the whole point of the substantial likelihood of material prejudice test was to approximate the clear and present danger test that we say applies. And he says the difference between those is likely mere semantics. Whatever that standard means, it is an exacting standard that is not even plausibly satisfied.
But if there is a different standard for participants as opposed to outsiders, if there is, this is my question to you, if there is a different standard for participants than there is for outsiders, so please take that premise. There has to be something different from clear and present danger, because then there would be no different standard for participants. So if we read these cases to mean what they say, there is a different standard for participants than outsiders to the proceeding. Do you have an argument as to what that standard should be other than clear and present danger? This is sort of like your plan B, if you have it. If there's a different standard, what should it be?
No one that I'm aware of has cited any case law that specifically addresses that question.
That's why I'm asking you.
Which is to my mind, that's a powerful reason to adopt the clear and present danger standard. In other words, when you say clear and present danger, they say substantial likelihood of material prejudice. No case at all adopts some intermediate standard between those two.
Well, you just told me substantial likelihood is very close.
And that's why there's nothing in between them, right?
Okay, so then substantial likelihood may be close enough to clear and present danger.
If it's interpreted as we think it should be interpreted in light of
you haven't told us how it should be interpreted different from clear and present. If I'm going to say this again, the answer is not clear and present with different labels. If there's something less than clear and present, otherwise there's no differentiation between participants and outsiders. So if there is something less than clear and present danger, how would you articulate it? I am ready to write.
The two standards approximate each other, and I'm not aware of any case adopting anything in between.
You don't have a standard.
Correct. Our position is the clear and present danger standard.
Full stop. And you have. If that is not what we adopt, then you have no other argument for us.
I would have to invent a standard.
No, I'm asking. Well, sometimes that's what the law requires. Yeah, so if we need to come up with something that still treats participants different from outsiders. And if outsiders get clear and present, that necessarily means participants get something less. That's what this case is about. And you say, the district court here applied the substantial likelihood test. So you've got nothing in between to offer us.
I would say clear and present danger is the standard that applies. If the court applies substantial likelihood of material prejudice, it ought to take count of the effect that approximates the clear and present danger test. And the showing that was made in the district court here comes nowhere near satisfying either of those tests.
Okay. And we'll give you whatever time, we'll let you know. When there's, in your definition or application of clear and present danger, and that's an incredibly strict test, is there any limitation on a participant's speech? What does it capture that is not already outlawed by 1512 or something else? What speech would be captured that isn't already illegal in your mind? Can you give an example of some speech that would be covered by your clear and present danger test that isn't, in fact, unlawful form of threats, harassments?
Well, I mean, the notion of harassment, as we cited in the Poplar decision, raises the problem that some of the, quote, harassment may actually be First Amendment protected speech. So I don't think that would be it. Are there cases that would address speech that is not criminal, right? In other words, you say 1512 speech.
Can you give me an example of some speech that is covered by your test that isn't already covered by the criminal law?
I can't think of a hypothetical as I stand here.
So really your point then is that there can be no limitation on speech because his release conditions already forbid him to violate the law.
The conditions of release
forbid him to violate the law.
That is correct.
And you can't give me an example of speech that could be regulated that doesn't violate the law.
I'm thinking of all the social media posts, for example, that are...
you can make one up. It doesn't I'm asking you to make something up here, not really refer to something that happened. I'm not asking you to say that.
I have trouble. I cannot think of a hypothetical that would not be a violation of the law.
Right. So
because we're dealing with the heckler's veto scenario.
So no, because then I'm just trying to make sure I understand. And it may be right. We're dealing with political speech here. But your position is that at least when a participant in trial is engaged in political speech, there can be no limitation imposed to protect the administration of justice in the criminal proceeding.
No, that's
other than the pre-existing prohibition against violating the law.
No, that is
okay. You just
not
give me an example.
I've been asked for a hypothetical with no evidence at all to show how there might be some daylight between those two standards. And I frankly am thinking of all the social media posts at issue in this case and whatever else, whatever daylight there may be between those. These don't satisfy.
Well, this is a test that you've proposed, and so I'm trying to see if you have a conception of how it works that would allow a court to still protect the criminal proceeding beyond its prohibition on violating the law. And this is your test. And so it seems incumbent upon you to be able to explain to me what a court could do to protect the integrity of criminal proceedings that isn't already covered by a don't violate the law, don't violate the criminal law.
Under Nebraska Press Association, the heavy burden of demonstrating, quote.
That's not, this is oral argument, and you're here challenging an order and asking us to adopt a legal test. I mean, what's been crystal clear from the Supreme Court is they've even said many times recently, clear and present danger isn't a mechanical formulation. It's meant to be a balancing test, a test that balances the interests in speech, which you have explained are very high, and the interests in protecting the integrity of the criminal process and the criminal proceeding, which is also a weighty constitutional interest. And so the reason I'm asking this question is to see if there's any balance, which is what the Supreme Court tells us to do, in the test that you propose. And so tell me how it balances if you can't give me anything other than a criminal law violation that would satisfy your test.
The phrase I believe that the Fifth Circuit used in Brown, the case heavily relied on the government, is absolute freedom in the context of a
so there is no balance.
Criminal speech obviously is subject to the restrictions.
Then that's
but political speech, that is core political speech, that's part of campaign speech. I think that kind of labeling it core political speech begs the question of whether it is in fact political speech, or whether it is political speech aimed at derailing or corrupting the criminal justice process. You can't simply label it that and conclude your balancing test that way. We have to balance. Well, I think in the balance, the court should consider the fact that the issues at stake in the appeal are just absolutely inextricably, and in the gag order itself, not just the appeal, inextricably entwined with the issues that are being publicly debated in the context of the
Counsel, you mentioned Brown a few times and the fact that that order was lifted in the run-up to the election. Mm-hmm. What actually happened in that case is that the district court, at the outset, without any evidence, the only evidence was that there was general press attention to the case, and it sua sponte entered a very broad gag order. It then lifted that in the run-up to the election, but the defendants then started sharing recordings relevant to the case with the press, and the court stepped in and reimposed a limited form of the gag order. So my question is, why isn't the analogy here to that second, narrower gag order that the court entered in Brown? That's what happened here. The district court didn't act rashly. It waited. Back in August, it gave clear warnings to the parties not to make the type of statements that were at issue. That trend continued, and now we have an order that's targeted at the exact types of statements that have been occurring. So that's my question. In Brown, they did reimpose an order during the election.
Yeah, looking at the facts of Brown, I believe it was other defendants, not the political candidate, who started leaking, it was confidential transcripts of jury materials and giving interviews about them. The court reissued a gag order that basically said, don't release stuff you're getting through discovery that is otherwise confidential, which is totally different than the gag order we have here, right? This is not a situation, we haven't disputed in this case that a district court could say, hey, you've gotten access to materials only through discovery. This is like the Seattle Times situation, and therefore you can't release those to the public. So then Brown goes on to say that he was given complete latitude to actually defend himself in the political arena, which is the critical issue, or which is one of the many critical issues at stake in this appeal. And was given, it says it may well be the case that for the benefit of the electorate as well as himself, he has absolute freedom to discuss it. And keep in mind, the electorate there was people voting for a Louisiana insurance commissioner. Here we're talking about every voter in the United States of America.
I do want to get to questions about the scope of what he's able to say, but just briefly back to the evidence. You're certainly correct that most of the threats at issue, this pattern of statements followed by threats, is from 2020. But I think the link might be, and I wonder what your response is, that was all about the same subject matter of this case. So essentially what the district court is finding is we have a past pattern. When the defendant speaks on this subject, threats follow. And now he's making similar statements again. We're months out from the trial. This is predictably going to intensify as well as the threats. And so why isn't the district court justified in taking a proactive measure, not waiting for more and more threats to actually occur and stepping in to protect the integrity of the trial?
There's an evidentiary burden here. The evidence, actually, it isn't just that there's no evidence now, it's that the evidence we have now completely counteracts that inference. because it is undisputed that President Trump has been posting about this case almost incessantly since the day it was filed, and they haven't come forward with a single threat that's even arguably inspired by any of his social media posts. The only threat they talk about in their brief is from the Schrei decision, from the Schrei case from the Southern District of Texas. I strongly invite the court.
Well, counsel, and a death threat to the district court judge in this case.
Right, Abigail Jo Schrei. That is the August 5th telephone call. If you poll, it's Southern District of Texas.
The day after he said, if you come after me, I'm coming after you, that threat issued.
I strongly encourage the court to pull both the probable cause statement and the detention order from that case, where there's evidence that that particular threatener, there's no evidence of any reading of social media. That particular threatener is a unemployed, mentally unstable, heavy alcoholic who sits on her couch drinking beer all day, according to her father, never leaves the apartment, watches the news, not reads things on social media, watches the news on TV, gets angry about it, and makes angry, threatening calls.
So I'm sorry, counsel, this might have been partly my fault, but I want to go back. Imagine all we had was the 2020 pattern. That evidence is very specific. It's about when the president speaks on this issue, events around January 6th, and that there are very specific threats that people receive. And again, that was a time where, as you're saying, the atmosphere was very tense.
Final words right after this.
You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
Woo! Told you this was going to be a long one. So here's first of all, let me just make this perfectly clear. I don't know the law, and I'm not a legal scholar. I have not consulted with anybody on this. But here's what it appears to me. They're throwing people who listen to Trump under the bus, meaning that what they're saying is this: if the president, the former disgraced president, makes a statement, he is not responsible for the actions of those who go out and does something about it. I believe he's liable. Therefore, I believe the gag order should be in play. He has millions of followers, dumbass followers, I should add, who hold on to every fucking word that comes out of his nut rest, who comes out of that orange face. He opens that orange face, and you got a bunch of dumbasses listening to him, to the point where they've either been convicted or about to be convicted or waiting trial or in jail. And not once has he offered to pay any of these fuckers, these dumbass fuckers, legal fees. Okay? He has not done that. This is fact. I'm not speaking hyperbole here. This is fact. On top of that, he's wasting the D.C. Court of Appeals time. He's wasting their time, as you can tell. And if you wanna hear this in its entirety, go to PBS or any other organization that is out there and play it in its entirety, and you will see. So here's my final words. 2024 is right around the corner. The election is nearly 1 year away. Don't pay attention to these polls that are out there who is showing that President Joe Biden is falling behind the two-time disgrace, 91 count indicted, former disgrace, twice impeached orange president, former president of these United States. Do not pay attention to those polls, because those polls mean nothing at this point. What means everything is the voices that are out there that understand that this rhetoric that comes from the far-right Republican Party, this rhetoric that specifically speaks on woke and don't understand what woke is. This Republican far-right party who is trying to tell women what to do and when they can do with their bodies. I mean, you just simply can't make this up. We're talking about a far-right Republican Party who basically took our government to the wire of government shutdown, which would have meant that veterans, disabled veterans, retired veterans, disabled veterans, Social Security, Medicaid recipients, our elderly, the list goes on and on and on. People who need that government funding would not have gotten that if it wasn't for the Democratic Party signing on with the Republican Party. That includes the far right Republican Party, to get something done. Let's be clear. All the spending bills that have been done this year and since the Republican Party has taken over the House has been done by the Republican Party. Two speakers in 2023 has bartered and worked with the Democratic Party, while over 96 Republicans did not vote for the CR. But you have all the Democratic Party, and you have the you have the Senate Democratic, and you have the Senate Republican parties who came together to work something out to get this to President Joe Biden's desk. It is not the Democrats who are saying we're not going to fund Israel, we're not going to fund Ukraine. It is the Republican House. It's the Republican Senate who is saying that we need to fund these countries because these are our allies. The House has been in a disarray since they won the House. They've got nothing done. They've not introduced any tangible bills. You've got Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. I mean, the list goes on. What's this fucker's name again? Mike Lee. You've got that other guy I played earlier. I forget his name, from Louisiana 3rd District. I mean, and then you got these folks who are just doing dumb shit that is not working for their outside of working for the American people. They're not doing that. And then you also have fuckers like Jim Jordan and the rest of these knuckleheads that are embarrassing, to say the least. So if you want something done in the House, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you need to vote Democrat. You need to get, or if you're going to vote Republican, no matter what, you need to vote for a Republican that's going to go in and play the game right. That means you have a Republican that if they have conservative views, they don't have far right conservative views. They're going to go in and they're going to put together bills. They're going to negotiate. They're going to present something, and they're going to get these bills sent up to the Senate so the Senate can sign off on it and get it to the president so the president can sign it into law. I'm just a bill. You know something? Apparently, these far-right Republicans need to actually watch Schoolhouse Rock. Because they're in there and all they want to do is campaign and do campaign funding, and they want to bow down to the NRA. They want to do all this other stuff, and they want to speak on verbiage that they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. None whatsoever. In order for America to move forward, we cannot allow the two-time disgrace, 91 count, far as I'm concerned, pedophile, former Orange president to get back in office. And you cannot allow these far-right Republicans who don't know their ass from their elbows to get back in the Senate or get back into the House. People like Tupperville needs to be gone. People like Lindsey Graham needs to be gone. People like Jim Jordan needs to be gone. Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Holt Green needs to be gone. I mean, it's just that simple. You know something? Here's the truth. You have a lot of people who were in the Trump administration that Trump brought on. All these folks are now saying that it would be a dangerous thing and these are Republicans. This would be a dangerous thing for our Constitution, our government, if he was back in office. This guy is talking about opening concentration camps for illegals. He's talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, against the LGBT communities. He's talking stuff in uncertain words between blacks and Hispanics. I mean, the writing's on the wall. You know what? We got to make these motherfuckers straight. Lean back.
Yeah! My niggas, throw your hands in the air right now, man. Feel this shit right here. Scott Storch, nigga. Yeah, Khaled, I see you, nigga. Showbiz, born law. I don't give a fuck about your faults or mishaps, nigga. We from the Bronx, New York, shit happens. Kids clapping, love to spark the place. Half the niggas in the squad got a scar on their face. It's a cold world and this is ice. $500,000 for the charm, nigga, this is life. Got the Phantom in front of the building, Trinity, yeah. 10 years been legit, they still figure me bad. As a young, was too much to cope with. Why you think motherfuckers nicknamed the cook shit? Should've been called on robbery, stall shit, or maybe grand larceny. I did it all, I put the pieces to the puzzle. Just as long I knew me and my people was gonna bubble. Came out the gate on some Flojo shit. Bad nigga with the shotty was the logo kid. Said my niggas don't dance, we just pull up our pants and do the rock away. Now lean back, lean back, lean back. Come on, I said my niggas don't dance, we just pull up our pants and do the rock away. Now lean back, lean back, lean back, lean back. Come on.
Hearts to the easy, into the whiz eye. My arms stay breezy, the dawn stay fizz. I got a date at 8, I'm in the 740 fizz and I just bought a bike so I can ride till I die with a matching jacket. About to cop me a mansion. My niggas in the club, but you know they not dancing. We gangsta and gangsters don't dance with boogies, so never mind how we got in here with burners and hoodies. Listen, we don't pay admission and the bouncers don't check us, and we walk around the metal detectors, and it really ain't a need for a VIP section in the middle with a dance floor. Reckless, check it, steady. Like my necklace started relaxing now. That's what the fuck I call a chain reaction. See, money ain't a thing, nigga. We still the same niggas. Flows just changed. Now we about to change the game, nigga.
Said my niggas don't dance, we just pull up our pants and do the rock away. Now lean back, lean back, lean back. Come on. I said my niggas don't dance, we just pull up our pants and do the rock away. Now lean back, lean back, lean back, lean back. Come on. Now we living better now, coochie sweater now, and that G4 can fly through any weather now. See, niggas get tight when you're worth some millions. That's why I thought the chinchilla hurt their feelings. You can find your crack at all type of shit. Out of Vegas front row to all the fights and shit. If Father Born come, then they probably squeal. Cause half the rappers that blow like dirt for real. If you cross the line, damn right, I'm gon' hurt you. These faggot niggas even made gang signs commercial. Even Lil Bow Wow throwing it up. B2K Crip walking like that's what's up. Can't keep telling me to speak about the rucker. Matter of fact, I don't want to speak about the rucker. Not even Pee Wee Kirkland could imagine this. My niggas didn't have to play to win the championship. Come on. Niggas don't dance, we just pull up our pants and do the rock away. Now lean back, lean back, lean back. Come on. I said my niggas don't dance, we just pull up our pants and do the rock away. Now lean back, lean back, lean back, lean back. Come on. Yeah. Can you hear me? Bronx, BX Pearl, Terror Squad. Big Pun forever. Tom Montana forever. Yeah. Streets is ours. Come on. Nah, man. It ain't never gonna stop. Search. Raul.
You've been listening to Right, Left, and Center. Our passion is to talk about today's news, politics, the environment, culture, and anything else that helps shape the news in America. Our 2022 season was so strong, we had to come back and smack 2023 right in the mouth. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And continue to listen on iHeartRadio, Spotify, or anywhere you download your podcasts. See you next time on Right, Left, and Center.